Steph Weaves Tales presents Paxwood, The Haunting of Paxwood House, a paranormal fantasy web serial written and narrated by Stephanie Gildart. Episode 39. Welcome to Paxwood. If Monday hadn't been Memorial Day, I would have visited Paxwood Library sooner. Tuesday after school, before the city council meeting, was the earliest I could make my way back to the records room. Luella's journal kept calling me, not in the possessed by a ghost way, but more in the way stories pulled at me. Once Rowen took ownership of Paxwood House, she'd need to understand the ghosts who occupied it, and even if Luella was a demon-worshipping spirit who tried to shove her demon lord into my girlfriend, her journal could still help build understanding. Girlfriend. I could call Shar my girlfriend, not just friend. I blushed thinking about that while I waited for the librarian to finish helping another patron. Easier to think cute, nervous thoughts about Shar than to think about what I was about to do. I'd never stolen anything in my life. Trespassed, sure, but I followed the adage, take only memories, leave only footprints. Trespassing was way more fun when you didn't get caught. You want to go into the records room, right? The librarian guessed, giving me a smile as he turned his attention to me. Yes, thanks, I said. Once I was alone in the room, and the librarian had returned to the first floor, I looked for Luella's journal on the shelf. Still there. With a shaking hand, I pulled the journal out and dropped it into my bag. You accused me of stealing, and then you take the journal for yourself, Sly said. I spun around. She'd come in so quietly, so quickly, I hadn't even heard her approach. When I'd first met her in here, I took her goth aesthetic as teenage rebellion, pushing against the norm. Now that I knew who she worked with, her choice to wear black came across as more sinister. I don't know what you're talking about, I lied, shifting my bag on my shoulder. That morning at school, Mix Cardoso had gifted me and Shar both with protective quartz bracelets. I made sure that Sly could see it there on my wrist. Any magic she threw at me wouldn't get far. Sure you don't. She brushed past me and went to the shelf, placing her finger in the gap where the journal had been a moment before. Give it back. Instead of engaging, I started for the door. What are you going to do in public with witnesses? Nothing. Sly laughed. A dark, hollow sound. You should be more worried about what I'll do when I catch you alone. Cute. I glanced over my shoulder and tried to mimic Rowen's confidence. See you around, Sly. I was shaking my whole bike ride to City Hall, but the physical activity gave me a chance to focus on my breath instead of Sly's threat. I'd talk with Mix Cardoso about how to prepare as soon as I could. After locking up my bicycle, I meandered to my mother's City Hall desk. She was already there, going over messages from constituents. How do you think the vote's going to go? I asked as I settled into the chair she left out for visitors. You'll find out with the rest of the public, she said. She was still mad at me, which was fair. I took a little neatly wrapped pastry box from my bag and presented it to her. Without a car, Shar and I couldn't go to Bellingham for Memorial Day, so we spent Monday at her home, catching up over confectionery. I'd set aside the best chocolate-coated toffees and caramels I'd produced for my mother. If you need a little energy boost, I said. Should we get dinner delivered here, you think? She peeked into the box, and her expression softened. That's a good idea. I'll take care of it. Both of us worked through dinner. Even though the school year was as good as over, Memorial Day marking the start of summer and all, teachers still had to at least pretend to keep teaching through the last day of school. As I swallowed my last bite of food, I also swallowed my pride. I really am sorry, I said. Even though I thought about Shar and her parents, I wasn't thinking about you. I should have been honest with you about where I was. You need to be, she said, setting her single-use bamboo fork aside. You're growing up, so you're going to do things I don't approve of. But you're going to be so much safer if you talk with me about it. If I know where you are and who you're with, if you get in trouble, I can be there so much faster. I keep grounding you because you're lying to me, but that doesn't work. How do I get you to talk to me? I considered for a moment how much easier this would be if I told her about the magic side of things. But that was too much of a paradigm shift for half an hour before a crucial city council meeting. I can try to be more transparent, I offered at least. She picked up her fork and jabbed it toward me. You'd better, kiddo. There was almost always a closed session before the public city council meeting. When my mother joined her fellow city council members, I made my way to the lobby. Rowen, Mix Cardoso, and Shar were already there. Rowen was talking with Diana Cade of the Paxwood Chronicle. I tried not to be offended that she was cutting in on my story now that there was a whole kidnapping scandal around it. Both regional and national news outlets might share her article, so it made sense for her professional career. And if only because of that scandal, more people than usual showed up for the city council meeting. You want to go home? I asked Shar. A few people were looking at her, but no one had approached. She shook her head. I'll be fine. Here, come with me, I said, pulling her hand. I led her down the hallway to one of the side meeting rooms. Since most people didn't have authorization to be back here, it'd be quieter. There's a CCTV where they always play the city council meeting. Don't you want to be in the meeting room? She asked. I'd rather make sure you're comfortable. Rowan's going to be amazing on her own, and Diana's taking over coverage. From our private viewing room, we watched on as the public filed into their seats. The city council members were out on a break between the private and public session, but they returned soon enough, and the session was called to order right on time at 7 o'clock. Minutes from the closed session, a few other issues to deal with, and then it was Rowan's turn. Ms. Hayward, would you like to say anything before we vote to approve or deny the sale? Curtis Mitchell asked. Even if he didn't exactly remember Rowan saving him from Anhold's influence after the last meeting, he smiled amiably. Rowan stepped up to the microphone for public comment. City council members, I've only been here for a short amount of time, but I can already see what makes Paxwood special. In this city, you stand up for the things you believe. You support local small businesses. You do what is right, not what is easy. There's a lot to love about a place like Paxwood, and I would be honored if you entrust me with making the town founder's home an active part of your community. My degrees in physical therapy and childhood psychology give me the background knowledge necessary to run programming for youth that will engage body, heart, and mind and empower those who attend to make meaningful impact and contributions to their communities. I'd love to work with your local organizations to host seminars and community events in a historic local landmark that doesn't need to be hidden away. By approving this sale, you're investing in the soul of your city, and I will always remember the trust you placed in me today. Thank you. The public in the room applauded, but not nearly as enthusiastically as Shar and me. Then the floor opened for comment on the matter. Mix Cardoso and a few others provided their 1-minute endorsements of the sale. Dr. Vogel was the only dissenting voice. We should wait and put this precious piece of our history in the custody of someone with tried and true experience, not this young lady barely out of college with a head full of dreams and no life experience, he insisted. I wished I was in the room to get a better read on the council after he said that. The CCTV feed wasn't exactly ultra-high definition. When the moment arrived, though, all the members voted to approve the sale. I almost feel like we're watching the founding of Severio's School for Exceptional Fledglings, Shar said, referencing one of the most popular Wonder comics, The S-Men, which followed a team of aberrants born with a unique DNA aberration that gave them superpowers. And we get to be students. I grinned. There's still a few items left on the agenda before they dismiss. Want to go home before the crowd moves out? Yes, thank you. I'll call my parents to come pick me up. Once I'd sent Shar home, I stuck around to congratulate Rowan. Granted, she would not leave the meeting with keys in hand. I didn't know a lot about property sales, but they took a lot of time and paperwork. I waved to Rowan as she came out from the city hall. She was caught up in niceties with community members, so I headed to her car. It didn't take too long before she came over. Mix Cardoso waved, but he went off to his own car rather than joining us. So, she said, you seemed hesitant before, like you wanted a normal life. I heard a lot of people chasing the Paxwood House story, I pointed out. You made poor decisions, but a lot of that hurt isn't really on your shoulders, Rowen said. Anholtz, Sly, the Paxwood ladies, they've hurt people. You made mistakes, and those mistakes put people in danger. So you learn from your experiences, and you make fewer mistakes. Rowen leaned against her car and looked up at the stars instead of at me. When I started college, the Hands of the Seers issued an organization-wide alert. They do that often enough that it becomes white noise, and I had to chat with a couple of old contacts just to be sure I wasn't misremembering. Keep eyes out for someone with an eidetic memory, probably born under a new moon, maybe a meteor storm. November 2002's alpha monoceratids were pretty intense right around your birthday if my research is correct. Critical events would draw this individual almost against their will with an instinctive pull to be present and witness. They might think of themselves as a storyteller or a journalist. They would have a birthmark that looks like a quill, probably on their lower back or hip. Do you have that birthmark? I leaned back. My dad once told me how the night I was born was so dark, but the sky was full of shooting stars. And as for the birthmark, well, I touched the spot on my hip instinctively. How did you know? Everything else lines up, Rowen said. You, Kerry, are the chosen chronicler of your generation. You have innate skills and magic that will help you collect the stories of chosen ones. If you really want to have a normal life, you'll be fighting against instincts you may not even know you have every step of the way. It's not impossible, but I'm a chosen one? Seriously? And the mistakes you made might be partly because of it, Rowen said. Do you feel pulled toward Paxwood House like a puppet on a string? Like you couldn't not be there? I nodded. Even if you didn't have a destiny, or if I'm wrong about this, I'd still think you have a lot of potential, and Mix Cardoso does too, Rowen said. If you want that normal life, I'll teach you what to watch out for so you don't let your instincts control you. If you want to explore the possibility that you might be the chronicler, I'll help you understand your abilities so you'll achieve your greatest possible potential. Up to you. How could anyone expect me to say anything other than, I'm in? Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Paxwood, Book 1, The Haunting of Paxwood House, is written and narrated by Stephanie Gildard. That's me. Theme music composed by Human Nature. Visit PaxwoodTales.com to read the story as it unfolds. Want to read over my shoulder while I write what's next? Catch me live on Twitch for laid-back virtual write-ins and crafting. If you like the story and you want more, like, review, comment, subscribe, and if you're feeling particularly entangled, buy me a skein of yarn on Coffee. Kerry's paranormal tip of the day. I could trust Rowen, but if someone approaches you telling you might be a chosen one, check their credentials before you take anything they say at face value. The paranormal world has its con artists and scammers too, but where the mundane world steals your money, they steal your soul.